On August 8, 2009, 9 people were killed when a Tor helicopter operated by a licensed commercial pilot for Liberty Helicopter Tours and a Piper operated by a licensed private pilot collided over the Hudson River. The collision occurred at 1,100 feet. Most of the wreckage fell into the Hudson River. However, some small parts made landfall. The majority of both aircraft were recovered from the crash scene. The Hudson River is frequently crowded with a high volume of sightseeing aircraft. They follow a pattern similar to a parade. The aircraft get in line and follow the traffic ahead of them. Weather was not a factor to the collision as both aircraft were operating under visual flight rules. Teterborough's air traffic control tower was short-staffed with only 2 controllers out of the 5 on at the time of the crash. One controller was monitoring the Piper and was helping with potential traffic, including the helicopter just minutes before the crash. He did not advise the pilot to turn to resolve the conflict. After the crash, the FAA established the Hudson Rule. This requires pilots to maintain a speed of 140 knots or less, turn on their anti-collision and aircraft position navigation lights if they are equipped. Pilots must also announce their position on specific radio frequencies and carry current charts for the airspace and be familiar with them. I interviewed Gabriel Mercado. My first question I asked him was, how can the collision have been avoided? He responded with, many things can be done to avoid a collision like that. Put more altitude separation rules between aircraft and helicopters. Make the Hudson River corridor a more controlled airspace with controllers making decisions instead of self-announcements from the pilots, or even give the time slots for the city tours so they can have more control regulations. Maybe limit the traffic that goes through the Hudson River, and the controller should not have been on his phone. Maybe some more vigilance on his part. The second question that I asked Gabe was, what are your thoughts on the Hudson Rule? His thoughts are that the current rules that are in place are good rules, but definitely more is needed to make the corridor safer. The third and final question I asked Gabe was, what are your thoughts on a short-handed air traffic control tower? He said, being short-handed at any job just puts more stress on any employee. When it comes to ATC, adding more work to the heavy workload they already have, especially in a busy airspace such as New York, is just creating a non-safe environment. Controllers are human. They can only do so much at a time, and having to cover multiple sectors at a time is a recipe for disaster.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!